Okay, let's get back after it. So, because I messed up the times, we're going to go an hour straight through now until lunch, which I hope everybody's okay with. You got your break. All right, everybody in Zoom land, hope you're back. Let's go ahead and go. Okay, now this is hard. Don't take it personally. It is difficult to not take our job personally, because if you care about the kids, and I hope that you care about the kids, it is a personal field. We are there to be able to help somebody else. Matt, you just told us to be a hero. And when that kid calls me a mother effer, I don't feel like a hero. I don't feel like I'm saving them from anything except my wrathful hand by not striking them. Okay, so here's the thing. You're actually doing a good thing. Usually when that happens, it's because we are stopping a behavior that shouldn't happen. We're holding them accountable. And oftentimes then the kid lashes out, they say something, or they do something. But if it were somebody else, they'd be doing it to them too. It is not you personally. You just happen to be the person stopping it at that time. But there's so many times that we end up going home feeling bad about ourselves because of something that a kid says. We have to remember they're children. They make mistakes. They don't know any better. That's why they're children. Did we know better when we were children? No. That's why we have school, so that we learn new things and that we try different things. And so, how many people have found themselves in arguments with children? How many times has there been a 47-year-old para and a 7-year-old girl out on the playground going, no, I won't. Yes, you will. No, I won't. Yes, you will. And it just looks like a little 7-year-old and a giant 7-year-old arguing back and forth. That's a problem. But we get roped into these arguments because we take it personally. We get into these power struggles. The less power struggles we have, the less defiant behavior, the less that we get them to argue. So think of somebody who argues is going fishing, and if they get us hooked, we're done. Once we are on the hook, we are done because they got us, and they go fishing for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's to waste time. Sometimes it's to frustrate the adults. Sometimes it's because of something they want. Sometimes they just enjoy it. That was me in high school. I loved being able to argue back and forth with teachers. And I knew the teachers that I could get a rise out of, and I knew the teachers that wouldn't engage and it wasn't any fun. I knew the teachers that would take it too far, too quick, and I'd end up in the office. So I stopped arguing with them, but not everybody does that. Not everybody does that. Sometimes it's to escape and avoid. They argue to be able to get out of something. That's when that was my true talent, is if I didn't want homework on a Friday, or I didn't want a homework on whatever day of the week, I might engage in an argument that didn't make any sense whatsoever to the teacher, and they would argue back, and pretty soon we didn't get through the lesson. So guess what? We couldn't have homework. That was me. I was diabolical sometimes. Okay. Adults argue for their own reasons. They refuse to give in to illogical arguments. That doesn't make sense. And let me tell you in 10 different ways how that doesn't make sense. Okay. Let me lecture you. We lecture sometimes power and control. I am not going to let this kid get the better of me in front of all of these other kids. And guess what happens when we are arguing in front of an audience of all of these other kids to that kid back there? Guess what it does? It makes us look bad. It makes us look bad when we do that, and that's a problem. Sometimes to prove that they're right. Sometimes we do it for our own reasons. Escape, waste time, enjoyment. I haven't stopped liking to argue. So when I had a classroom full of kids with behavior challenges, there were times when we just argue back and forth, simple conversations, but we would just argue about things like, maybe there shouldn't be underage drinking. Well, I think everybody should drink over in Germany. Yeah, I know. Okay. And so we'd have those debates. But we do it for our own reasons. And oftentimes that power and control, especially when we're taking it personally. So we want to avoid that. We want to reduce those power struggles. The best way I have ever found to reduce arguments is the broken record strategy. Okay. The broken record strategy is easy. You can implement it tomorrow. Heck, you can go home and implement it tonight with your spouse. Okay. You use the same response over and over and over again. You pick one I know, or I bet it feels that way, or I'm so sorry, or I'm not going to argue. Um, uh, that's an option. All of those kind of things, but you say that same thing over and over and over again to take the personal piece out of it. I'll give you an example. A kid would come in and he'd say, um, this school sucks. I know. I hate this place. I know. I don't want to be here. I know. I'm not doing my assignment. I know. I know. I know. You're fat. I know. I also got hair on my back. What are you going to do? I know. I know. I know. I know. And I kept saying, I know. And you know what's frustrating? Somebody who doesn't engage in that argument, somebody who's not going to argue back. My wife does it to me all the time. I told you she's way smarter than I am. Anybody in here engaged to be married? Good. I'm not letting out any secrets here. Okay, so my wife and I really get along pretty well, with the exception of one place in our house, and it's called the dishwasher, because she doesn't know how to load it. I'm wrong in every other way, shape, or form in my house. I freely admit it. However, when it comes to that person can come in, maybe we should open up that door so that they can come in. Let's do that. Come on in. Bring it on in. It's a 2-session piece. Come on down. You're the next contestant. There you go. There's a couple of handouts. There you go. Would you be kind enough to hand people handouts as they come in? All right. Thank you for joining us. And if you need chairs, go ahead and pop outside and tell people we need chairs. Okay. Sorry about that, Zoomland. To me, a dishwasher. No, come on in. Yeah, it's a 2-session thing. I messed up. Come on down. Let's go ahead and open up the door. Thank you so much. We might need some more chairs in here for the second part. Okay. My wife loads a dishwasher like a heathen. She just throws everything in there in piles. And she wonders why it doesn't come out clean. And she blames the dishwasher. And I'm like, nope. Here's how it goes. You put the plates down on the bottom and you put the ceramic things on the bottom and you put the plasticware on top, because otherwise they melt. And you put the knives down on the stuff. And that's the way that things go, because that is life. And that is the dishwasher. And she goes, I think we're done talking about this. And I go, no, we're not. Listen, I'm teaching you a valuable lesson here. This is how you, and she goes, nope, we're done. I go, no, I mean, come on, this is, and she goes, what do you want for dinner? And I go, no, I want to talk about the dishwasher. And she goes, I think I want chicken. And I'm like, oh, and I'm the one frustrated. But she doesn't ever learn how to do the dishwasher. By doing this, we are not the ones getting frustrated. And that's the thing. If we can figure out a way by saying one phrase over and over and over again, it keeps us out of that power struggle. If you've ever tried to argue with somebody who hasn't argued back, it is tough. It's challenging. So you say, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. Or okay, okay, okay. Another thing that you can do is give choices. And this is particularly good for kids who have power and control issues. And there's a lot of people who go, oh yeah, I got like 3 power and control kids. Power and control kids are actually very few and far between. We don't get a lot. A lot of times it's attention seeking or escape and avoidance type of kids, but we do sometimes get power and control. And the way that you test power and control kids is you sit down and you demand that they're going to do something that they like. We're going to sit down and we're going to color right now. And if they're like, nope, I'm not going to do it, we have power and control type of kids. But choices are a great way to be able to work with those kids. Saying things like, You can either do it now or we can take a break and come back to it in 5 minutes. Now, here's where we get into trouble with options with our kids with power and control issues, is when we give an option that says you can go to the office. You can either do this right now or you can go to the office. And guess what? Every time they will choose, they will burn down their own house just so that you don't get their way. They will go, fine, I'm going to the office. I like that person better anyway. I'm going to sit down there. I'm going to eat the secretary's candy and I'm going to enjoy myself because I don't want to be here anyway. Okay. Don't give them that option because they will make it hard. They will make it more challenging. Threats don't work with behavior kids very well. Okay. It's going to work great for kids like Sally Suckup, but it's not going to work for kids like Billy Batty because they're going to go, nope, done. I will up that ante every single time. Okay. Here's the other thing about not taking it personal. We have to remember that we are the adult. We are paid professionals. We are paid professionals to do our job. Thank you so much, sir. We are paid professionals to do our job. We are the adults. We're the caretakers. Yelling at kids, getting frustrated at kids, that's not in our job description anywhere. In fact, if it is in your job description, we need to have a talk with your administration that getting frustrated with an adult, with a kid is there. We have to remember that we're the adult. Kids make mistakes, kids make errors. Okay. Thank you so much for handing those out. Okay, now I just said don't take it personally. Now I'm going to say take it personally. Okay. We have to take it personally. Every single time we walk into a school building, every single time, we have to be ready to save a kid's life. Because that is what we're doing. Education is the way out of poverty. Education is the way to be able to advance kids, to make them better than they were before. For my son, Ben, the education is going to be the difference between him going, between him living in a facility like BSDC and living in a group home, or maybe living in supervised independent living, or maybe living by himself. That's going to be the difference because education is powerful. We have to be ready every single day to be able to take that. Do we have any seats available? I want to be able to help you. Okay, we got one right there. Excellent. Every single kid that comes into our room needs that help because there is a lady, maybe not at your school, but she's at some of our schools, and it's this lady. That's Mrs. Crabapple. That is Mrs. Crabapple. And Mrs. Crabapple is that teacher that should have resigned when she was 22 years old because it's clear that she hates kids. They use words like, I have a lot of rigor in my class, and that's why only 25% of them pass it. Only 60% pass my course because I make it so hard. Guess what? If you're only passing 60% of the kids, you're a bad teacher. Okay, that means you got a failing grade. That's that teacher's fault. Okay, sorry, soapbox. Let me step right back off of that. Okay. Mrs. Crabapple only believes that the kids who want to learn and they can learn her style of teaching are the ones who have value. The other ones don't count. And I know that you guys have seen those teachers as you bring your kids with special needs in and they go, what am I supposed to do with this? I had a teacher say that to one of my service providers this past year, this past semester. What am I supposed to do with this? It was everything I could do to not run to that school. I'm not going to run. I'm going to drive. Let's be honest. I'm not running anywhere. To go to that school and just yell at that teacher. They took care of it though, because they're better adults than I am. We have to be ready because we do have people at our schools that aren't good for kids. Every single kid that comes into our school needs to have that favorite adult, that one person that they can count on. Because the more that they're at school, the more that they're in class, the more that they're learned, and the better life that they're going to have once it is done. Here is something that may get my PBIS card pulled. Punishment works. Punishment works. Punishment works, though, for 80% of our kids in school. Punishment works really well for kids like Sally, but you know who it doesn't work for? It doesn't work very well for Billy, who does bad things all the time. Because keeping him out for recess, keeping him in the classroom, suspending him, expelling him, all of those kind of things, the only thing that it's doing is keeping him out of class. It's not going to be very effective for him. And a lot of times we go, well, what else are we supposed to do? What else are we supposed to do? Here's the truth about punishment is that anything that we're going to throw at those kids in school isn't as bad as what they've gotten at home. I heard a teacher last year say, you know what that kid needs? He just needs to go whoop him, which means I want to whoop him. But here's the thing, those kids, when you say stuff like that, those are some of the most whooped kids in school. Those kids have been hit and beaten and swatted and spanked. And you know what? It hasn't worked. That hasn't educated them one bit. And so you know what's better than punishment? Reinforcement. Reinforcement. In every study that's out there over and over and over again, reinforcement has been shown to be more effective than punishment. Every single time. A lot of times we think of reinforcement as we're going to give Jolly Ranchers to kids for doing the right thing. We're going to give candy to them. And I don't want to give kids candy. You know what? The most powerful reinforcer that we have out there, it's absolutely free. And the more that you do it, the better you get. And it's praise. It is praise. And it has been shown over and over and over again. Here's some statistics. In 1994, they did a study out of 79 teachers, and they showed that one positive comment was given for every 6 criticisms. In 2000, those same people went and did a study, and they showed that even though teachers knew that positive praise was effective and valuable, they still didn't do it. Even though they know what's right, they still don't do it. Works for adults too. In 2000, they showed that 1.2 to 4.5 times per hour per student is what students got praised. Who do you think was getting the majority of that praise? I talked about it in the keynote. You think it was Sally or Billy? Sally. Sally was getting praised 3 times the amount as Billy. Now, let's take that and put it into academic terms. Let's say that because Sally is obviously socially above grade level because of all of the privilege that she's had. Let's say Billy isn't. Okay. If we had a kid who was 3 grade levels above in reading, and we said, you know what, every single intervention that we have in the school, we're going to give to Sally every single day. And Billy, I know that you're 3 grade levels below in reading, but tough luck. Sorry, man, you're going to have to figure it out somewhere else. What would we do? We would say that is educational malpractice, and that's a problem. However, we do it with behavior all the time. Billy needs 3 times the amount of positive praise that Sally gets. Now think about that. How often do we praise Sally for all the good things that she does? Now, what I'll hear is, Matt, though Billy doesn't give us a whole lot to work with. Let's take it back to that academic piece. Those kids that are 3 grade levels behind in reading, how much do they give us? Not a lot. We start at the low level. Somebody's speaking to me. It's a struggle, but when we flip it and we look at it from a behavioral lens, we think that it's normal. We need to be giving Billy 3 times the amount of positive praise that everybody else is getting. They did a study in Kansas City, a guy by the name of Howard Wills, a brilliant guy. They went in, they saw 1 positive comment for every 3 criticisms, and they showed that the class was on task about 56% of the time, about half the time. They did an intervention, and the only intervention that they did was with teachers and parents, and they shot up to 12 positive comments for every 1 criticism. And the class was on task doing what they were supposed to do, every single kid, 85% of the time. Now imagine what could happen in a classroom if 85% of the time, every single kid in that classroom was doing exactly what the teacher wanted. The only change was there. Okay, more research-y stuff. Research is showing that the more frequent criticism that we give to kids, the more that we're seeing withdrawn behavior and hyperactive behavior. And it's associated with low self-worth. Well, golly, I wonder why. The more that we critique a kid and tell them that they're doing something wrong, the more that they feel bad about themselves. Who would have guessed? Although the more frequent praise that we get,
it's
hi, Catherine.
So
Did
I'll
you
get
have a
him.
question?
I want to leave him here and I'll grab him real quick. Okay.
Hey, Catherine.
Yep, yep.
I'll let her know I'll take them.
Did you have a
Okay.
question?
Yeah, let her know you'll take them. I'll grab them out of there for you. Okay.
Hey, Catherine, did you have a question?
Oh.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Call him out on Zoom land. We see less withdrawn behavior and more frequent praise. With more frequent praise. Sorry. Okay. If you can mute yourself on the other side, that would be great. Unless you have a question, then open it up. Okay. When you praise, we want to make sure that it's behavior specific, and there's a reason why. We have to get kids to the level where it becomes automatic, where they don't even have to think about their behavior. Okay, we have to do it so many times that they don't even think about it. Why do we teach things like sight words? Why do we teach things like multiplication charts where it becomes automatic? Because if they can draw upon that immediately, then they can do more advanced level skills. The problem is we teach behavior the first 3 weeks of school, and then we drop it. And then we say, you should know better by now. We went over that lesson way back in September. Well, has anybody ever forgot something that they learned in September? I have. I don't even remember September at this point in my life. Okay. So we want to be behavior specific. And let me give you an example. If I walk through and I go, hey, thank you so much for having your eyes up front. Okay. Thank you so much for having your notepad out and taking notes. Now, when I said that to her, who heard it? At least the people in the immediate area, but maybe the whole class, that when I praised her to thank you for writing down on your notes, what do other people do? They get out the stuff and they start writing down their notes and they get it. So it's that reminder. It keeps it at the front of their head. Okay. So that's why we want to behavior specific. You don't walk through and just go, hey, nice job. Way to go. Good work. I like that. Nice. Thumbs up. Good job. Okay. Because that doesn't tell them anything. Walking around and giving that behavior specific praise is the same thing as a teacher walking around going 3 times 3 is 9, 6 times 6 is 36, 6 times 7 is 42. Okay, 8 times 8, 64. They are walking around giving the lessons on what the expectations are in the class. And that's why it's important to be able to give those, because the other kids will keep it at the front of their mind. How often do we have to write things down so that we remember it later? If we always have it at the front of their mind. If somebody followed me around and said, hey, Matt, today's a good day for a salad. You feeling a salad today? Hey, I think a salad's going to be great today. Hey, you know what? Maybe you get fruit on the salad. That feels weird. I know. Ranch and oranges, that doesn't feel right, but sometimes it works, right? Salads are great. Salads are great. You want to eat healthy today? I want to eat healthy today. You know what? More chances of me eating healthy are going to happen because somebody is walking around telling me I made good choices that day. The more that we can do it, the better that we get. And we get it to the level of automaticity so that they don't even have to think about it. So that when we say line up, they line up, because we've said about 15 times over the past 2 days, Sarah, thank you so much for having your face forward and your hands down to your side. Thank you so much for that. And so what you see is kids doing that automatically, and they don't even have to think about it. We get to the level where it's not a problem anymore. So it is unnatural to give praise. We are not hardwired to give praise. So we have to learn how to be able to do it. So we want to shoot for 4 positive comments for every 1 criticism. That's what most of the research says. But depending on who needs a paper published, they'll say 5 to 1, 8 to 1, whatever it is. 4 to 1 positive praise is what we go with. So you can cue yourself. Okay, so you can set a timer in your pocket. That'll go off every 2 minutes. So it goes off every 2 minutes in your pocket as a reminder to give positive praise. We want to cue ourselves to be able to do that. Okay, we can also self-monitor. Okay, so self-monitoring is an easy thing, whether it's taking cues or, and I don't have it out. I give golf tickers to a lot of teachers and paras, and all a golf ticker is you push a button and it keeps a count for you. It's a great way for frequency counts. If you have to take data on kids, how many times a kid cusses or how many times a kid gets out of their seat or something like that. If you're taking data in the classroom, I love those things. But if you want to keep track of how many times you give positive praise, you click through it. So every single time you give positive praise, you click it. What's great about it is self-monitoring has this, the word is called reactivity, but basically what reactivity is The more that we are aware of our behavior, the more that we will do that behavior. So the more that we see that number go up, the higher likelihood that we're going to do it. That's why people who write down their calories every day, or if they're trying to quit smoking, or they're trying to increase the amount of steps that they have during a day, they write it down and they keep track of it. It's the same thing if we want to increase praise. Student recruiting. If a kid says, hey, guess what I did? That is an underhand pitch that you can knock out of the park, okay? Because that kid is inviting you specifically. They think you're going to be impressed with the thing that they did. And I want to tell you about it. Take 2 minutes. And I know we have busy schedules, but take 2 minutes and go, so tell me about it. Yeah, I was with my dad this weekend and we went fishing and we caught like 3 fish and one of them was like really big. Dude, that sounds really awesome. Sounds like you had a really good time. I really did. And you know what's going to happen? That kid's going to walk away with a smile on their face. Or we can say, you know what? Tell me later. Okay. And maybe they forget it. Maybe they don't have that. But you have an opportunity to build a relationship or they don't. So we want to take that. If a kid brings you in, take that opportunity. Performance feedback. You can have competitions. Elementary paras versus high school paras. Oh, yeah. First grade versus second grade. Okay. See who can give the most amount of positive praise. And I talked to you about Adam and the writing. I have given tons of notes to people over the years. Just a little note that said, you did a really awesome job. I'll send emails out to people that go, that was an awesome thing that you did. Way to go. Nice work. Just for that little bit. And you know what I found out? Even as an adult, we have people that will keep track of those notes. I've encouraged people, I keep track of notes that people have written to me. I've encouraged my staff to keep what I call brag files, okay? The things that you do well, the things that people say are important, that an email that you got, print it off and stick it in there so that the same thing like Adam did with his box, you can open it up and you go, I remember this time, I really made an impact. That was awesome. You can experiment with different praise types. Now, I'm not saying that we can't critique kids. Absolutely. We still call kids out when they do something wrong. We just got to up our ante when it comes to the amount of positive praise that we give. And we need to really bring that game. Okay, so sandwich praise works like this. We might say, hey, thank you so much for paying attention, but if you could, I don't want you to use blue pen. I need you to use a pencil because it's math. Okay, could you get that out? Thank you so much for getting out and ready to go. Okay. Told her what she did well, told her the thing that she needed to fix, told her another thing that she did well. I sandwiched it in between. Okay. That's called sandwich praise. We can do nonverbal and verbal codes, a thumbs up or fist pump or way to go, whatever it is. Even kids at the high school, round of applause. Or I used to do, all right, everybody give that kid a big hand. And all the kids would go, what? And they'd stick up a big hand. It seems corny at first, but once the kids get into the routine, you get one popular kid doing it and everybody's going to do it. All right, everybody give that kid a big hand. Oh, and they put a big hand up. It's corny, but those traditions count. Thumbs up. I got to tell you a story real quick about thumbs up. And this doesn't have anything to do with praise. But sometimes we need to teach kids socially appropriate behaviors for socially inappropriate things that they might be doing. And so I had a kid who was in science class, and the science class teacher he was a jerk. He was an ass. I'm sorry. He just was. And so my kids would always get kicked out of his room. And I'm like, well, my young man liked to let him know his feelings with a finger. Okay. And so he was getting sent to the office all the time. The teacher was tired of him getting sent to the office. And so they said, when he does that, send him down to Matt's room. I'm like, thank you so much. Okay, so about 4 days a week, this kid would get sent down to my room about halfway through class, and he'd flip the teacher off and he'd be like, this sucks. And he'd go, that's enough out of you. And he'd go flip and he'd go kick out of class. One day he got mad because he did something that he thought he did right. And he argued with the teacher, and then he flipped him off, and he was down there and he's like, God, this place sucks. I just hate this place. I'm like, I know, right? I know. And he goes, God, how am I supposed to pass this class if you're always kicking me out? I go, okay, so here's the deal. I want you to stop flipping him off. And he goes, well, you want me to say the word? And I go, no, I don't want you to say the word. What I want you to do is I want you to start giving him thumbs up. And he goes, why would I give the guy a thumbs up? And I go, because it's all about your feeling about it, right? Thumb up instead of using this. It doesn't matter what finger, it's how your feelings are, right? He goes, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I go, okay, well, I'll take a seat over there and we'll wait out class. About 2 days later, he comes in my room and he goes, oh my God, McNibb, you gotta hear this. Okay, so he was being an ass again. And he goes, oops, so jerk. No, actually, he didn't say oops, a jerk. He said ass. Okay, he was being an ass again. And so he was right in my face and I was like, okay. I gave him a thumbs up. And then he stepped back and he was like, okay. And he gave me a thumbs back and I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. It was so awesome. I was like, well, great. I'm glad that it's working. So he told his friends too. And so the teacher was getting thumbs up all day long in class. The teacher was leaving at the end of the school year. And so it was like the last day we were all checking out and he goes, you know what? I'm really glad. I really made a difference in Spencer. I think we were really struggling through the first half of the year, but you know what? We turned it around. We were giving each other thumbs up and stuff like that. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to tell you something about that. So I told him because he was a jerk. And so I've been like, and he was like, so they've been flipping me off this whole time. Like, yeah. Because here's the thing, this is appropriate, this is not appropriate, this is appropriate, this is not appropriate. Now, little caveat to that, I did that, and before I had kids, my behind the wheel, everybody else is bad drivers in my book, or they used to be. I had a lot of road rage issues. So I didn't have enough middle fingers to let people know what I thought of them, that they shouldn't be driving. And so cursing, all that kind of stuff. And it only happened behind the wheel of a car. I don't know what happened. And so my wife goes, you got to fix this. We're going to have kids and you can't be doing this all the time. So I started the thumbs up thing for people. Well, as my kids got older, I was like, okay, so a guy cut me off and be like, all right, everybody, let's give this guy a thumbs up. So my kids were in the back just going like this, and I was doing this, and my wife was just like, stop it. And I'm like, nope, no. And it's funny, my Jackson, my oldest, saw me present about 2 years ago, and I told that story, and he goes, oh my God, I've been flipping people off this whole time. Yeah, you have. Yeah, you have, buddy. You sure have. And so every so often now as a teenager, I'll say something like, so homecoming's coming up. You're going to ask so-and-so to homecoming? And he'd be like, I'm like, okay, so we're not going to ask anybody. All right, so here you go. All right. Here's a tenet that we got to learn. Anything can be learned. I hear from teachers all the time, I did not go to school to be a behavior person. That was just you. No, we all know how to teach behavior. We know all the expectations of class. It doesn't have to be a big thing. And if we do a lot of preventative stuff, it'll stop the stuff from happening. And so that's important. I view behavior as a skill deficit. I view it in the same form that we have kids who have academic deficits. And if we view it as this is something that a kid has not yet learned, or they have not learned it to the point where it becomes automatic for us. Okay? Because everything from the start is hard when we start learning it. When we start to walk, when we start to talk, when we start to learn a new skill, when we start to learn to crochet or cook or something like that. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes effort. Okay? We have a deficit. Kids with behavior problems have a behavioral skill deficit. And if we view it from that, then it means that we need to teach it, and we need to teach it a bunch of different ways. So I'll give you an example from my own son. My own son, Jackson, we started getting calls from the first grade teacher. She had a clip chart. Jackson didn't keep his hands to himself. Okay, y'all know what that kind of means, but Jackson was not aggressive to people, but he would, kind of push kids. He'd be one of those 5 kids that would run to the front of the line where there should only be 2 people and all 5 kids crunch in. Okay, he was one of those kids. He gave a lot of wet willies in school. So we got calls about that. And let me tell you, being the behavior consultant for a district where you're getting calls on your kid, that's a proud moment in your life, let me tell you. Now, my wife and I both have master's degrees in behavior disorders. My wife is a counselor. We got skills, right? And so we started everything that we could. And we started okay, so Jackson, we need to keep our hands to ourselves. We did a lot of prompting. Keep your hands to yourself. Keep your hands to yourself. Before he got on the bus every morning, okay, Jackson, we're going to keep our hands to yourself. What are you going to do? I'm going to keep my hands to myself. Then he come home from school. How was today? Well, where were you on the chart? Well, I had a red. I had a yellow. I had a red. I had a yellow. I had a green. And we were like, yeah. He didn't make it above green, but yeah, green. Okay. Because he couldn't keep his hands to himself. A girl grabbed, stuck her booty out at him and he slapped it. And I'm like, no. Oh yeah. She was like, and he went, whoop. Like, nope. Can't have that. We did that for 2.5 months. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? All of a sudden, his mom one day goes, Jackson, God, other people don't like being touched. Now, this smart, brilliant little boy, he cocked his head like a cocker spaniel trying to figure something out. It had not occurred to him that after all the times of people going, Jackson, quit it, that they didn't like being touched. Once she presented it like that, the behavior dried up. It was amazing. We had spent all this time saying the same thing over and over and over again, but we just shifted it just a little bit and the behavior dried up. He still did stuff because he was an ornery first grader that still gave wet willies and stuff like that, but it wasn't nearly as often. Okay. We didn't get as many calls. He didn't get as many reds on the chart. I'll talk about a clip chart this afternoon. I'll give you an example in real life. I'm going to show you a picture. Now, like any picture and like any new lesson, some of you will be able to get it right away, but not very many of you. You'll see it right away. Other people will go, oh yeah, I see it, but they won't see it. And then other people are like, I'm clueless. I don't have any idea. Okay. I will give you hints and some people will go, oh yeah, I see it. And someone will go, oh yeah, I see it. Just don't call me. They won't see it. And then other people will be like, I still don't see it. Okay. So I'm going to show you this picture. Here's the picture. Okay. Now, how many people know what it is? Okay, there's a few people. Okay, great. Like I said, a few people know it. Now, I'm going to give you some hints. It's a cow. Okay, it's a cow. So how many people see it now? How many people with that clue? And some people are like, yeah, I'm confidently going to say yes, because maybe he won't call on me if I raise my hand. Okay, how many people don't see it? Okay, this is hard. This is hard. Okay, we got one person. Okay, I got chocolate. You don't see it. Anybody else not see it? You don't. Okay, I'm gonna go back. Definitely don't see it. Okay, Jason, we'll show you how to see it. Okay, what's your name? Sierra. Okay, Sierra. Now let me try this. These are proven teacher tactics. Okay, you've seen a cow before, right? Absolutely. Everybody in here seen a cow. Absolutely. Okay, so Sierra, I will give you 2 candy bars if you see it. Do you see it now? No, so you still don't see it. Okay, so you've seen a cow before. I reinforced you and you still couldn't see it. Let me try this. I'm going to keep everybody in here for lunch until you see it. Okay? Does that make it any easier for you to see it? Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, I see it now. Let me try this. Okay, you've seen a cow. Okay, proven teacher tactic. Try harder. That works, right? No. Let me try this. Now do you see it? Now, all of a sudden, you're like, oh my gosh, it was there all along. Let me take it away. Can you see it still now? Absolutely. Why can you see it now? Because I gave you the knowledge on how to be able to see it. We do this stuff all the time with kids. We're like, stop it, stop it, stop it, quit it. Yay, we get lunch still. I see it now. Love the crowd. All right. I got my back turned and y'all are like making fun here. Yeah, awesome. Yes, because once you learn a skill, it's tough to take it away. Okay, we see the cow. And when we take it away, we still see the cow. Just like Jackson, when we said other people don't like to be in touch, once he had that realization in his mind, he realized that, okay, when I go to shove somebody, that's hard and I shouldn't do that anymore. Okay. I see somebody taking a picture. Photobomb. Okay. All right. Here's the other piece of that. Once we teach a skill, we have to practice it. Practice makes perfect. The more that we do a behavior, the better that we get out of it. Get at it. If I were tasked to go home and change out a carburetor, I don't even know if cars have carburetors anymore. That's how little I know about vehicles. But if I was tasked with doing that, it would take me a long time. I would avoid it because it's hard. It's something I don't know how to do. It's something I don't know how to do. However, if I put one in, maybe the next time it's going to be a little bit easier, and the next time it's a little easier. And pretty soon I start to know what I'm supposed to do. That's why we have them practice behavior. Here's an example of how practice makes perfect. This is somebody who drew over 6 years with intentional practice. Imagine what you could do over 6 years with a kid. Look at what they did there at 13. Look at what they did when they were 18 years old. That is magnificent what they could do because they practiced a skill. Okay, same thing. I know that that first picture is Carrie Underwood because it says Carrie Underwood. She gave me a hint. But the second picture looks like Carrie Underwood. She got the eyes. Okay, look at 2012 and look what she did with that Katniss Everdeen look. That was beautiful. That's beautiful. We have to teach kids how to be able to do appropriate behavior. And so we have a skill called overcorrection. I'm going to go back here. We have a behavior strategy called overcorrection that we can do. And what overcorrection is we are having them practice the appropriate skill over and over and over again. And I'll give you an example. We will sometimes take kids out of a class and go, that's blurting out a lot. Okay, so buddy, you're not in trouble, but we do need to practice a skill. So instead of blurting out, I want you to raise your hand. So who was the first president of the United States? Raise your hand. They raised their hand. Who was it? George Washington. Who was the first president of the United States? They raised their hand. Who was it? George Washington. They raise their hand, then they go back in and we see an increase in the kid raising their hand. We do this all the time with things like running down the hall. Up, nope, 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 come back, let's try it again. But instead of just doing it once, we're going to do it a couple times. And maybe we're going to do it along with them. You know what? We need to be safe. So we want to make sure that one of the things that being safe is walking down the hallway. So we're going to walk down the hallway like we should. Great job walking down the hallway. Let's turn around. Let's go back one more time. All right, let's see if you can do it independently. Go ahead and walk down the hallway. Okay, great, fantastic, nice work. You can go on to wherever you needed to go. Now, if a kid needs to go to the bathroom and he's holding his legs, make sure he goes there first. Okay, I have one kid wet himself once. Okay, that's overcorrection. We have them do the skill over and over and over again. And that's why we have practice when it comes to academics, that's homework. That's all that is. When it comes to behavior, we don't practice that though. When the kid makes a mistake, we don't practice it. And so so that's called overcorrection. The other thing that we can do is called inconvenience. Now I love inconvenience. Inconvenience is one of my favorite things. And basically the premise of this is based around that behavior is all about context. There's no behavior in and of itself that's bad. It's just when and where the behavior happens. That's bad. Okay, so if we're looking at school, when is running okay at school? Playground, PE, athletic events, track practice, however, hallway, classroom, not appropriate. Okay, those gray area behaviors for kids. And so what inconvenience does is it changes the time or location of where something happens. So for instance, an inconvenient location, high school paras in here. Okay, how many people have sleepers? Okay, yeah, they're fun. Okay, so what we've done with some of our sleepers is we put a sleeping chair in the room. It happens to be a stool. Anybody ever try to fall asleep at a stool? Not the easiest thing to do. Not the easiest thing to do. I had a teacher pull me in once so the kid sits on there and he's trying to, I'll just go back to my desk. Desks are made for learning. And this is what we explained. Desks are made for learning. I'm so sorry. If you want to sleep, we do have a special chair right over here for that. It's the stool. And it's tough to be able to do that. Now, I did walk by a high school class and they go, Matt, come here. And I walk in, this kid's just over I'll turn this way for the camera, just over the stool like that. And I go, he's sleeping. And I go, he wins. And let him sleep. Okay. It's one more tool in your toolbox. It's not going to fix every problem. Okay. Elementary paras. How many people have tattlers? Every one of them. Yeah. Okay. So I had a teacher pull me in, said, Matt, you got to watch this. Okay. So she had this owl up on her classroom wall. And so kids started coming in from recess. They put up their coats and they started lining up in front of this owl. Okay. And they go, Sally said I couldn't play with her because I wasn't wearing the right shoes today. And then they walk off. Next kid comes in. I got pushed off the slide and I didn't like it. And then they walk away. And so we had like 4 or 5 kids lined up and 2 kids threw their coats in their little wall locker type of thing and run, just power walked and was like, Billy pushed me on the slide. And Billy's back here going, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. To this owl, they can't do anything about it because she trained them that this is the owl that you tell all the problems to, the tattle owl. So kids would come in and because kids would come into her and they go, guess what happened at recess? Who do you need to tell? And they'd line up right there and they'd tell this owl. Now, she was always close enough where it was like, I got punched in the nose. She'd be like, okay, come on over. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what happened. Okay. Had another teacher who took a old rotary phone, put it in the back of her classroom, and the kids would go back there and they would tell their stuff to the rotary phone. And it was almost like, here's a quarter, call somebody who cares, you know. For those of you who don't know what that means, we used to have pay phones that you would have to pay to make a phone call, and it cost a quarter, and you'd have to dial it on a landline. Now, a landline is a phone that is attached to a line that goes into the ground. Okay, so anyway, have to help the youngins. Okay. It was funny, I was observing a kid that didn't have anything to do with this association with these 2 girls, and this little girl, her head popped up like she just got an idea, and she walked back to this phone, and you could tell who was getting stressed about it because there was this other little girl who was like 2 rows over, who saw her get up and walk over to that, who started sweating, was just like, looking around, and just followed her. And you saw this girl pick up the phone, go and write it down, and she just strutted right back to her room, just staring her down the whole time, like it was a direct line to Santa. I'm like, she didn't do anything, but you know what? It worked. And kept it out of the teacher. We can do that with a lot of different things. For John Magg out of the University of Nebraska came up with the do nothing chair. Classroom desks are for doing something. The do nothing chair is right up here next to the teacher. If you want to do nothing, then you got to come up and sit in the do nothing chair right next to me. We have a special location just for people who do nothing. And that's okay to do nothing. You just have to do it over here. Okay. So that's inconvenience. We can also have inconvenient time, that we pick the time that it's going to happen at. For arguing with kids, I used to have on my wall, I only argue between 12 and 12:30 and 3:30 and 4 o'clock, which happens to be when? Lunch and after school, that's right. And so every time a kid would try to engage me in an argument, if I wasn't using the broken record strategy, I go, oh, I'm so sorry, but I can't argue right now. It's right here on the wall. Well, I need to, right here, kiddo. It's black and white. But I need to come back at 12. But I need to, when do you come back? 12 o'clock? Okay, great. I'll see you then. In my 4 years teaching at Beatrice High School, I only had one kid ever come in, and he came in right at noon and he's like, okay, we need to talk about this. And I'm like, awesome. So I had a smile on my face. We were sitting at the table and we were right across from each other and I had a smile. He goes, why are you smiling about this? And I go, I don't know. I just, nobody's ever done this. And so we were talking back and forth. And so 12:30 comes along and I go, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. You know what? I would love to keep this going. This has been a great argument, but if you want to come back at 3:30, we could argue some more. And he goes, oh, and he walks away. Because it's frustrating for him and not frustrating for me. I loved it because he did it at the appropriate time. Because I said, this is the time that we do that. And we can set up all of those kind of things. You pick a behavior. Oh, I'm sorry. Right now, it's not the time to blurt out. Right now is the time to, we can blurt out at 11 o'clock if you want. We had a kid who loved to talk about the Today Show. Chris had Asperger's syndrome, and the Today Show was just his biggest thing. He just itched to be able to talk about it. And so what ended up happening was his first class was world history. He would go in and he would command 20 minutes of the time recapping all of the stories that had been talked about on the Today Show and what Katie Couric talked about that day. And we're like, okay, we need to do something else. So what we did was he got a certain time of the day to be able to get all of that out. Okay. You can set up these things, and it's not that the behavior that these kids are doing is bad. It's just they're not doing it at the right time. You pick the time. Okay. You pick the place. Okay, now when you're doing overcorrection and inconvenience, the trick is we can't be sarcastic about it. We have to present it in a positive manner, because if we're sarcastic about it, oh, you think it's funny to walk down the hall all silly. Well, we're going to practice it until you get it right. Now, that's sadistic. We don't want to be that person. I am always almost apologetic when I talk about it. So for overcorrection, we get a little kid who does a little LeBron James waste paper throw. Okay, you get those kind of kids. Those kids can be annoying. So we ball up 5 pieces of paper and we do it right. Now, I always take them out of different things. I never do it in front of other kids. I bring them in like at lunchtime or right before recess is supposed to start and go, hey, I just want to make sure that we're doing it right and that we can practice this skill so that it gets it done right. Here's 5 pieces of paper. I want you to walk it from over here, and I want you to walk it to the trash can and place it in so I know that you know how to do it right instead of chucking it from across the room. Okay, and so they do it and then they leave. So I'm always apologetic. I'm sorry. I know you wanted to try to shoot the waste paper, but that's not how we run things in our classroom. And if we're calm about it most of the time, and you might get kids that go, I'm not going to do that. Okay, well, sorry, before you can go to recess, we just need to make sure that we get this done. I'm so sorry. But hey, that's your choice. If you want to sit here and spend your recess in here, that's your choice, but you can practice it. All you got to do is practice, and they might go, fine. And they walk through, and they might be mad and they drop it in. Every single time they do it right, I'm going to say, great job. Thank you for doing it right. Shut up. Okay. Drop it in. Thank you. Perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for. God. Drop it in. Again, don't take it personally. They're just letting off steam. Okay. Okay. We're going to finish with never give up. We got all of these kids coming into our classroom. You know, you're going to get that kid tomorrow. Okay. They need the hero in their life. So please work against that woman. Okay. I was asked once if that was my senior picture. No, that wasn't my senior picture. Okay. I want to say thank you on behalf of my kids, on behalf of all the kids that you're going to be working with in the future. If you guys have any questions and you go, gosh, I have this kid, let me know. I do a lot of presentations about this kind of stuff. Here's my information. You can follow me on Twitter. And if you need anything else, let me know. Thank you, guys. Go get a good seat for lunch.